the mouse universe is just a carbon copy of the human universe.
So
I think so.
So when the human queen dies, do they kill the mouse queen and then get a new one?
This is getting very dark. Oh my.
How do they line it up so perfectly?
It just does, Mike. It's just fate in the universe.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of our podcast. The podcast is called Steam-Powered Movies, and I am one of your hosts, engineer and producer Mike Fraedrich. I'm here with...
Hello, my name is Dana Fraedrich. I am your resident steampunk and fantasy author at your service.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me, Dana.
Of course. We live in the same house.
Yes, we do. And in this house, we just watched a movie that's a steampunk movie, because that's what we do on this podcast. We watch steampunk movies, and then we talk about it. It's pretty simple. We'll talk about the movie. We'll talk about the steampunk elements, the steampunkiness of it, if you will. We'll have some discussion in general, and then at the end, we'll give it our own special ratings. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So let's get into it. Like I said, we watched The Great Mouse Detective. It was directed by the duo of John Musker and Ron Clements. They did a bunch of Disney movies that were animated. They also, some other guys were directing too. I forget their names. But
you just watched the series on John Musker and John Clements. I've already forgotten their names.
John and Ron and whatever.
Whatever. But yeah, you recently watched a whole series with Blank Check on this. So
Yeah. So yeah, I did recently watch a bunch of their movies. They were the main guys on this. A couple other guys too. This movie came out in 1986, starring the voice of Vincent Price as the villain in the movie. Ratigan. Fantastic. Couple little interesting things here about this movie I'll start off with. So it's basically a movie. It's the mouse version of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. Based on a book.
Yeah.
Basil of Baker Street.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
And do you know where the name Basil comes from?
I'm sure it's Sherlock-y related, but no, I don't. I mean, unless we're just talking about the herb.
No, we're not talking about the herb. The name Basil comes from, he's named after Basil Rathbone.
Actually, it's Basil.
Oh, sorry. So Basil, named after Basil Rathbone.
Who played Sherlock in that series?
Yes.
Okay, this all makes sense now.
Yeah, back in like the 30s and 40s, there was like a dozen or so Sherlock Holmes movies, and he was the star of it. And he actually appears in this film as the voice of human Sherlock Holmes.
Does he?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a very cool little tidbit.
Yeah, so tying it all back together, I thought it was a pretty cool little tidbit about this movie.
Oh my goodness.
Another little tidbit, one of the final sequences, and by the way, we're going to spoil the movie. Spoilers in this podcast. Watch the movie first if you care about that sort of thing. Watch this movie from almost 40 years ago.
Don't say it like that. Please don't bring math into this. I don't like it at all.
Anyway. Can you spoil a movie that's from the 80s? I don't know, but
I think it's just polite to always say spoiler alert.
okay.
No
Well,
matter.
Spoiler alert: the final scene of the movie is a showdown to the clock tower, and it's the first use of computer animation in a feature film.
That I knew.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and also the first. Well, of course, the first computer animation. They also first to blend hand animation with computer animation, because only the gear background was computer generated. All the characters were hand drawn.
That's kind of an amazing anachronistic little conjunction, because you have the gears, which are very analog and very old-timey, and then you're pairing that with this very new technology of like computer animation. And I kind of like the juxtaposition of those two things.
Yeah, and it's kind of a steampunky thing, combining old school with new school, old technology with future technology. It kind of goes along with it.
Yeah.
That being kind of our main hook into watching this movie. Some people might be surprised. Steampunk movie, Disney animated mouse detective thing.
Oh, but it is. It really is. And we should take this moment to say, if you are not familiar with what exactly steampunk is, first of all, just watch this film. It has everything. It has all the steampunk. Oh my goodness. Like, we have airships. We have gears. Like, literally, like, Fidget's checklist includes gears. We have clockwork people. So this has everything. It's a great introduction to steampunk. And basically, for anyone who, like I said, is not familiar with that, usually I think of it as like low power source, like steam, matched with high technology. So in this, you'll see clockwork, which is a fairly low power source kind of thing, creating what is basically like a Queen Victoria doppelganger to a very advanced degree.
Yeah. So I made a list here of what I thought were some steampunk tropes that this movie just hit on.
Okay.
Like every single one. Mm-hmm. So you said airships.
Do we want to get to this yet? Or do we want to talk about our, like, kind of our background with the film, or at least my background with the film?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's do that first. Then we'll get into talking all how steampunk this movie is.
Yeah.
Because it is. I didn't think it was at first.
Oh no.
I'll go first. That, like, I didn't have a huge history with this film. I probably saw it when I was a child, but it's not one that, like, stuck with me. Mm-hmm. I did watch it a couple of years ago. We watched it together, mm-hmm. and that was the first time I remember really seeing it. But I am a big Sherlock Holmes fan, so that's a great way to get me into it, and we'll talk more about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, wasn't a really big thing to me till recently. How about you?
So, as a very small child, like 4, 5, 6 years old, this was my favorite movie.
Oh, wow.
For a while. And basically, because of course you can't have the same favorite movies as your siblings. It's just not allowed.
No, it's copying.
It is copying, and then you're a fraud as a person. So, Little Mermaid was my twin sister's favorite movie. I don't remember what Heather's was. Heather was older. She was into different stuff than we were. But Great Mouse Detective was my favorite movie for a while when I was a small child. And you can see, if you've read my books, you can see the influence this movie had on me. Like, watching this evening, I think this is where I kind of got, like, my love of bustling, overbearing housekeepers. Esther is very similar to the mouse housekeeper in this film. Also, the cat's name is Felicia, and I have a character called Felicia in the books. I don't know if that's connected, if, like, that name was just, like, nestling inside of my subconscious.
You didn't know
for years and years.
Yeah, you didn't know you named her after a cat, but it was just there. Right?
It's kind of really fitting, though, based on her personality, because she does not give an F. Like, she runs her life, she does her own thing, just like a cat. So yeah, like, this had a huge impact on me, even though at the time, like, I didn't realize all of the seeds it was planting inside my tiny brain.
Yeah, kind of similar to, last episode we watched 20,000 Leagues, which was my first steampunk movie. Mm-hmm. And we talked about some of the ways that influenced me, maybe unknowingly. And so we talked about this being a great one to do next, because it was kind of your first steampunk, and obviously hugely influential.
I love it. I love this movie so much. And also, funny enough, like, I was never really into Sherlock at the time. I don't even know if I, like, was aware of Sherlock Holmes and all of that. Of course, later on in life, like, I became aware of it, but, like, I never was really, like, into Sherlock, possibly because he's kind of an a-hole. Like, I don't really like that kind of character.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Which, funny enough, this is a bit of a tangent. But, every year, more and more older books come out from under copyright. Mm-hmm. And the Sherlock Holmes properties have basically, like, slowly been coming more and more and more out from copyright. But the, what do you call it? Like, the sort of, like, whatever organization owns those intellectual properties, they claim they still own the ones where Sherlock sort of starts to become empathetic, starts to basically be less of an a-hole.
More of a human being.
Yeah, more of a human being. And so, like, they've done a couple of lawsuits against organizations who have kind of done that version of Sherlock, being like, oh, he's empathetic. Like, we still own that. I don't know
Yeah.
how those lawsuits turned out, but it's very interesting.
If I was the opposing lawyer, I would probably have a really good case against them because I think he's actually more human than that, even from the very beginning. And we can, and like this movie even gets to that. In a really, what I think's interesting way.
I mean, Basil is basically the mouse version of Sherlock.
Oh, he
like,
absolutely is.
We're not playing around. Like that's just what it is.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I guess we'll talk about this later, but one of the things I love about this movie is that it sets up that whole thing of this is like a parallel world to the human world. There's just like a mouse version of everything.
To the point where like even mice have the same conflicts as humans. Like what's the guy's Watson's name?
Dawson.
Right. I want to call him Watson because that's basically who he is.
Not Watson, Dawson.
Right. So Dawson, he's just come back from service in Afghanistan.
Right. No, I wrote that down in my notes. I was like, mouse Afghanistan ?
Right.
Like, what's going on
What
there?
kind of war are they fighting?
Yeah.
What is it over? Cheese?
It's so hilarious. I want to know more. I want to know more about this mouse world and why they're also fighting in Afghanistan.
I mean, I'm fairly certain that the creators would be like, it's basically just a carbon copy of the human world. Like, that's all you need to go with. But like, I have questions.
Right? No. Oh yeah, it's hilarious that this it's such a parallel that even the mice are at war in Afghanistan.
Right.
Yeah. So. A movie that goes way back for you, and it's full of steampunk. Like, even though I had seen this a couple years ago, when we talked about movies that are steampunk, and you were like, "Oh, Great Mouse Detective," there's like the Queen thing in it. And I was like, "Yeah, but that's really it, right? There's not really anything else steampunk."
No.
And then the first 5 minutes of the movie, I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Like, once you know what you're looking for, it's everywhere. I mean, Radigan has an airship, a Clockwork Queen Victoria. Like, Basil, I always want to call him Sherlock because that's who he is. But Basil has like that like crazy like contraption that's just like boots on like some kind of like a spinning thing, all kinds of stuff just like hooked up and happening, and like clockwork stuff and gears, and like just every inch of this movie is steampunk, and I am here for it.
Yeah. Again, my list of tropes was like airships, gears, automatons, a guy with a peg leg. That's a steampunk trope, right?
I mean,
gotta be.
Kind of. That's a bit piratey, really.
Yeah, I guess it's
more
but
pirate. Steampunk pirates are a thing, so yeah, kind of.
It just kind of seems to go with the whole aesthetic, the whole vibe.
We do have a lot of prosthetic limbs in steampunk.
Mm-hmm.
So, because back then, like you got gangrene in your hand, you just chopped it off, and then we replaced it with like a clockwork version.
Right. Yeah, and this one they even in the very beginning specifically spell out that this movie is set in the year 1897.
Mm-hmm.
So right in that late 1800s.
Yeah.
Right in the steampunk sweet spot, Victorian era. This one.
That's like the height of the Victorian era. She was, I believe, 88 in that year, because Queen Victoria was crowned when she was 18 years old. And so this was her Diamond Jubilee, which I believe is 60 years, like I said, which makes her, 78. I'm good at math. Yeah.
Very mathy.
But, she's getting on in years. I think by now, Albert has died. And yeah, so like we're nearing the end of her reign.
So the Mouse Queen is also having her Diamond Jubilee.
Yeah, exactly.
So in Queen Victoria, was this also Diamond Jubilee that same year?
I am assuming so, since we've already established that like the mouse universe is just a carbon copy of the human universe. So I think so.
So when the human queen dies, do they kill the mouse queen and then get a new one?
This is getting very dark. Oh my.
How do they line it up so perfectly?
It just does, Mike. It's just fate and the universe.
The human queen and the mouse queen must be the same age at all times.
I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you how it is.
Again, I need to know more about this mouse universe.
Right. No, I need more information on this.
Or maybe it's better we don't. I don't know. But still, yeah. How are they the same age exactly? It's just, it works out, I guess.
Just, yeah, like I told you, it's just the universe.
So the first thing we see is the toy maker, Haversham.
Mm-hmm. Have her flatter memory.
Right. one of the little running jokes that I like, the one running joke of Basil pronouncing Haversham incorrectly every single time. That's a great joke. Never gets old. Every movie should do it. Great, perfect, no complaints.
Mm-hmm.
But he gives a gift to his little mouse daughter,
Olivia,
which is this little ballerina that dances.
Clockwork.
Yeah, it's clockwork, and it's kind of sci-fi because that's not really possible to do.
Oh no, her movements are so fluid and graceful. I love it. Like clearly, this is a very good example of like a movie showing you something without saying a word very, very effectively. Like clearly, the movie tells us, Olivia says, "Oh, Dad, you made this." So like we know just from that and seeing the little mouse ballerina that he's an extremely talented clockwork toy maker.
Yeah, either a genius or wizard. Got to be one of those things.
Both? Can't it be both?
It could be.
Yeah.
We are not told. Mm-hmm. Maybe his technology comes from magic.
Yeah. Although, if that's the case, he's very clearly a very focused right. Genius wizard because he did not do well at being abducted.
No. But he could just have gear magic. Like, only gear magic for things that he... okay, whatever. Probably not a wizard. Mm-hmm. Just genius engineer.
Right.
Makes this flowing dancing doll thing. What were some of the other very steampunk things? Oh, you mentioned Basil's contraption after the opening scene, which I want to ask you, as a child, that opening scene, was that extremely tragic? And like, did that imprint on you? How like scary and sad that is?
I mean, I think as a child, you kind of don't realize your own mortality. And I don't remember being particularly like frightened by that scene and thinking, oh no, what if that happened to like me and my parents? Because like my dad's an amazing engineer, but like I didn't think he was ever gonna get kidnapped by a bat with a peg leg. So I didn't relate to it really in that way.
Okay.
I will say I relate to Olivia very strongly, though. She is a mouse that I wanted to be like as a child because she's like, later on in the scene, she's like shoving like the cheese crumpets into her pocket. She's marching to the beat of her own drum. Like she's doing her own thing. She has her own agency in this film. She's playing with the dog. Like Olivia is basically me as a child and also me still.
Nice.
Yeah.
She is kind of a chaotic element.
I love it.
That moves the story forward in a couple spots. Like, you got to have that one element that throws a monkey wrench into things to make things go wrong. But
I
it's gotta
don't
be
like
believable.
this description because it sort of paints her as not a person. She is a person with agency, doing her own things, like acting in the world and being a force upon it rather than just in it.
Oh, sure. But one of those things is following a trail of bubbles to get kidnapped.
I mean, why wouldn't anyone follow a trail of bubbles? I would follow a trail of bubbles.
Obviously.
Yeah, I told you. She's basically me.
No, I just asked you about the opening scene because obviously I saw this as an adult, so it didn't really impact me like emotionally, but it kind of reminded me of like An American Tail.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid and I saw that movie, that one like shook me.
Did it?
Yeah.
Why?
No, for sure. I don't know. Something about like him being left all alone and all by himself. And it was like the Somewhere Out There song. It was so sad. I didn't like that movie as a kid because I thought it was so sad.
Okay, clearly you were not scarred early enough because that happened to me when I was 4. And I, immediately went into recovery. But you have heard this story.
Yeah.
For the listeners, very, very short version is basically my family was leaving for Disney World when I was 4 years old, very early in the morning. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I do not blame my parents for this because bless them, trying to wrangle 3 children at 4 in the morning seems like a Herculean task. So I don't blame them at all. And it's not like they actually ended up leaving me for a week, but they did forget me for about 10 or 15 minutes. And when I realized that they were gone, my first thought was, oh no, I'm so sad. And then how am I going to feed myself? Oh wait, no, it's okay. Because I know how to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Okay, I've got the food taken care of. And then my family came back and we were all fine. I was crying. It was very sad. But like, I'd sort of already gone through that whole journey by that time.
In 10 minutes, which is amazing.
Look, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't always take 3 years to go through a thing.
Is that like the thing that like dogs have the mind of a child that, you know, you leave for 5 minutes. They're like, oh, I'm never seeing that person ever again. And they're so happy when you come back.
I mean, they just have no concept of time, which I don't know if children do. I don't know enough about child development to know if that's the same for children or not. If it's a time issue or just what.
Yeah, we're not Dr. Scientists, whatever.
Dr. Scientist Mike. Tell us the answers.
So the movie, we meet Olivia. She meets not Watson, but Dawson, and they go to find Basil, and we meet him, and the next steampunk thing we see is he's got this literally steam powered, like, Rube Goldberg machine that lights his pipe. And
no, it wasn't lighting the pipe. It was smoking like 7 different types of tobacco.
That's right.
So that he could then test it for whatever case he was working on.
That's right. Yeah. So the kettle on the stove creates the steam.
The man knows how to batch his work.
Turns the gears that is smoking the cigars and shooting out some pieces of paper. And yeah, it's that's a cool little contraption for sure.
Yeah.
What after that? What was another?
I mean,
steampunk element in this movie. There's so many, but
it's just basically like wall to wall steampunk things. We cut to the scene with Radigan and Haversham. I'm doing the same thing as Basil. But our toy maker friend, he's creating what will eventually be the Queen Victoria clockwork. And again, it's 100% that, like, this isn't really possible, but we're all like here for it. We're buying into it very much. Suspension of disbelief, because this is extremely cool.
Yeah, and they established in the first scene that he can do that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's set up. So yeah, as long as it's established and set up, I have no problem with that.
And I have to say, on a very picky note, I quite liked the way they controlled it. There's always an issue when you are extrapolating technology of suddenly making it overpowered, because, as I always say, this might be something I say in every single episode, nothing happens in a vacuum. And so, you know, for instance, if it were able to be radio powered, or some kind of remotely powered thing, suddenly it's that much more powerful, the potential of this technology. But he still has to, like, have it connected via wires. He's still speaking into a speaking tube in order to make her talk, which that limitation, it keeps it from being overpowered. And I think that was a really thoughtful touch.
No, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And this was not really moving forward in, like, the story when Basil gets captured and they get put in this trap. It's not really steampunky, but it's this crazy Rube Goldberg thing.
I love a complex villainous plot.
Right.
Oh, I couldn't decide on how to kill you, so I'll kill you in all the ways. You'll be shot, you'll be splatted, you'll be knifed, you'll be axed.
And he does the classic villain thing of, I have set up this complicated trap, but then I'm going to walk away and assume it works.
I love it.
So here's the thing that I think makes this particular setup work, and a lot of other movies get wrong. A lot of other movies, the villain sets up this contraption and then they walk away for no good reason, right? So this one, when Basil shows up and Radigan is like, I was expecting you, but I was expecting you 15 minutes earlier. Again, they set it up earlier. So then when he gets put in the contraption, Radigan's like, I'd love to stay, but I'm 15 minutes behind schedule.
Right. There's a reason for it.
And it's for his plot that was already in motion.
Yeah.
He can't be late for.
Yeah.
It's built right in. I think it works. I think it's enough. It's still ridiculous, but in a fun way. At
least they thought about it. They were like, hey, wait, are we really going to do this thing where, like, he just wanders away for no good reason? No. We thought about it.
And even just the fact of having the setup be any amount of time, it's only like 3 or 4 minutes before, but having the setup for the reason he has to leave being before it happens. Too many movies these days I see, it's like, oh, we need something to happen, or something happens, and then they explain it after. Yeah. But it sets it up before, which is better storytelling. Great thing about this movie, storytelling, tight, makes sense, while still throwing in ridiculous fun things like crazy villain contraptions.
I love it. I'm telling you, this movie is so good. I know it's 30, 40, I don't know. Don't make me do that. However many years old now, but it's so worth it. Like, it's just a solid film.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much.
And then, of course, we have the chase. There's an airship chase scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to say. Airship chase scene.
That's a good warm up.
Yeah. So Radigan has his airship, and then Basil has the makeshift one with a matchbox and a sheet and some balloons.
It was a Union Jack flag, and I guess it was a matchbox. And like that scene where it comes up is so good because like it sort of comes up and looms behind Radigan, and then it's like you just hear ba 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 like in your head. It doesn't actually play in the film, but it's just like Britannia. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a very very British, very United Kingdom movie. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just yet like another very steampunky thing. We're very sort of Britannia and whatnot in that community because, you know,
bunch of Anglophiles.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not gonna lie. It pegged us because, you know, so much of the Industrial Revolution, of course, it was happening here in America too, but you know, there was a lot of stuff happening under Queen Victoria in England and stuff like that. So, I mean, the housekeeper, who I don't think gets a name, but she like bustles off to make tea and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, bunch of good stuff. So next, let's just talk about a couple of our what are our very favorite things. We've said a lot of things we like about this movie. Obviously, you know, TLDR, we like this movie, right?
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
Tell me like one or two favorite things that you noticed this time around.
Okay, so two things. One thing that is very surprising in this film, very clearly, this is before movies, especially movies for children, started just being aware of, I guess, I don't know, like I kind of don't love this, but I also kind of get it. So there are two really big things in this movie that like would definitely be no-nos for children's movies now. And that is we see Basil smoking. Like you just don't see cigarettes in children's movies at all anymore, or any kind of family film. And we also have a mouse burlesque scene.
Yes.
And yeah, I know we talked about this earlier, but like that's a little shocking.
Absolutely. The second time I remember watching this movie, and I was the second time shocked that scene existed in a Disney movie for kids.
But let me tell you, that's actually connected to one of my favorite things about this is that there's no love story. So often in films, this is a bugbear for me. When there is an adult female character, I'm not going to use the term that is often used for this because I don't like this term. If you're clever, you can probably figure it out. But basically, if there's like an adult female character, she's there to be the love interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that. I hate that to the core of my soul because that is doing the same thing as all these other movies where like basically she is just an object to prop up the male protagonist and be there for his like emotional support. There's so much wrong with this. Women are not here to just be emotional support for men. We're not here to be a romantic interest. And there was no love story in this. It made me so happy because the burlesque mouse, who I'm going to go ahead and call Tiffany. Again, I don't know if she gets a name. I'm going to call her Tiffany because it seems like a very fitting name for her.
We could read the credits of the movie, but we'll just go with your name.
I don't think she had a name. But anyway, so
tweet at us if you find a name.
Yeah, tweet at us. What's the Twitter handle?
Steam Powered Pod.
There you go. Yeah, tweet at us if she has a name. But anyway, she would be the ideal candidate for a romantic interest for this film. And she's not. She's just living her life, doing her job, making her money. She is just doing her thing, and that we just leave her to it. And I love that.
So you're saying in like the modern live action Disney adaptation of this movie, there would be some sort of interaction between her and Basil in the bar scene, and he would be like looking at her, and she'd be like, "Oh, that's a handsome man."
Y'all, I am rolling my eyes. No, there absolutely would be, because unfortunately those movies are cash grabs.
And then at the end of it, they would kiss and it would
she
be
would
like
somehow like get conveniently included. But no, in this, she's just doing her thing. I love it.
Just making a living.
Yeah.
Just hanging out of that bar and singing for tips or whatever.
Yeah. She's probably got her little penthouse suite. She's good to go. So that was one thing I loved about it, that they didn't try to shoehorn in a romantic storyline. I love a romantic storyline. I am not aromantic, but I just don't like a romantic through line if it doesn't fit. So anyway, I love that about it. And I also, what's the other thing? I wrote down notes. Hang on, let me see. Right. Here's the other thing. The top-notch trolling that Radigan pulls, like when Basil kind of comes in and is caught in Radigan's trap because he was basically lured there following Fidget the Bat. And then like the banner unfurls that says like, welcome Basil. I love this trolling.
Oh, it's great.
That is some A+ trolling. That's the sort of thing that Rook in my books would pull.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely just chef's kiss. I dream of being that good a troll. I never will be.
Yeah, let's talk for a second about how much Radigan prepared for capturing Basil. He had a banner made.
I know.
He had, and he pre-recorded a song.
He did. He like took the time. And this is not, by the way, this is not like where you can just record it on your iPhone. We need wax cylinders in order to do it.
He made an actual record. Yeah, he printed a record of him singing what was like so long, so soon, farewell,
whatever.
Yeah,
it's definitely a crime.
It doesn't get the prominence of a lot of Disney musicals that the villain song usually gets. It's like a big musical number, a big to-do.
He had his musical number, but honestly, I don't really care about that number. I like this one.
Yes. No, I this one to me is the villain song. But it's kind of snuck in.
It is.
But I do think it's hilarious
that
he spent
good.
Like it insinuates that he spent the time to write the song and record it and put it on a record and have it playing and be the mechanism that sets off the contraption to murder his nemesis.
And not even that, but it's not like a mouse-sized record player. It is a human-sized gramophone.
Right.
Whatever they did, they had to take it and sneak it to the human world, get the humans to press the record.
Yeah, who's the go-between between the mouse world and the human record pressers? Do they have a human recording engineer on retainer?
Oh, it makes me so happy.
No, maybe is Radigan a performing artist?
He might be.
Is he
that's
charting?
That's his legal cover.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah. Like, because he's a personality, he's known when at the end he introduced himself, but he's like, yeah, I'm Radigan. I'm in charge now. But maybe they already knew who he was because he was a famous singer.
There you go. You cracked it.
He has a recording contract.
You've blown this wide open.
And that was his front. His secret identity was crime lord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the police never caught him, but he was right in plain sight the whole time.
Right. I mean, not even Basil could catch him. That was established only in the film that like he slipped through his fingers again.
Again, this mouse world is complicated and it's great. It's got layers.
I do really love how they have integrated the mouse world in with the human world. Like you see the mice using objects from the human world and kind of like taking them and forming them to their own use. I always love a story like that. They do it in Secret of Nim. All of these furry friendly films. We support you, furry community, BT dubs. And they kind of have to be so creative with these ginormous objects from the human world. And then, how would a sentient mouse use this? Not sentient, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like an awakened mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, I've said a lot of things that I really like, but my favorite thing about this movie is the Sherlock Holmes-ness of it. Again, I grew up reading the stories, and I liked most of the adaptations that have been done of it. I'm just a big fan of Sherlock Holmes. I like mysteries. I like trying to figure them out. I like being surprised by the endings. Just love a good mystery. Sherlock Holmes is great. And then,
I have a question for you then.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
Okay.
Shoot me your question.
So, because this is a children's film, and honestly, if it was done up like a normal mystery where you don't see what the villain is doing, you don't know who the villain is most of the time, it's not laid out in that same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with children, you kind of have to be a little, give them a little bit more. Were you disappointed at all in watching this? Because you know who the bad guy is the whole time. You know what he's up to, basically. They don't quite tell you what exactly is going to happen, but they give you all the clues. They're showing you everything.
No, I wasn't disappointed by that. And I do think they did a decent job of holding back enough. You could tell there's always the scene, there's always the point in the mystery story, especially with Sherlock Holmes, where he has figured it out, but they haven't given you enough information to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, anyway. And in this one, it's in the toy scene, the toy shop, where they have the whole scuffle with the bat. What's his name? Fidget, right. The whole scuffle with Fidget. And then, I keep wanting to say Watson also. Dawson finds the list. And he's like, what is all this for? And then Basil's like, what, you haven't figured it out already? It's quite simple.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, he knows the whole plot. We don't exactly know. We know it's something to do with the Royal Guard and something to do with gears. And, you know, we've seen the hints about the Queen being shown, and so something to do with the Queen. We don't know exactly, but yeah, there's always that scene. So I think it did well in that way. Yeah, there's a little bit more shown from the villain's side.
Mm-hmm.
In a traditional like Sherlock Holmes story, you don't get the like omniscient point of view where you can see what's going on with other characters, because they're very much written from Watson's perspective. But I do like how many things they tried to keep the same as they could. The housekeeper, who is in the very beginning, they were like, is this the residence of Basil, Detective Basil? And she was like, I'm afraid it is. You could tell from that first line that she is like,
beleaguered and over it.
Yes, beleaguered, perfect word. So you got that character, knocked it off the list. You've got all of his scientific experiments happening, including firing weapons. That's definitely a thing that happens.
The gun firing, yeah.
And yeah, doing the bullet analysis, the smoke analysis. It's more with pipe smoke in the books and stories, but you know, cigars, whatever.
Yeah,
probably easier to visualize. They had his personality. He was very moody. He played the violin.
He's a drama llama.
So much drama. So moody to the point where it actually really works with the kind of the part where they're captured, that he gives up. He's like, I've been bested. Like, his ego is so bruised, he gives up on life.
Oh my gosh. Like, that was the one thing that I didn't like about this film as a child, because I could never relate to that, where I'm like, bruh. So he got you. Okay, you get back up and you try again. Duh.
But it's very Sherlock Holmes. It's perfect for the character, and only when Dawson says something, oh, maybe we should just set it off now, that it sparks something in his brain, like, set it off. Oh, and then he has an idea. He snaps into action.
This is his opportunity to get back and ride again.
Right, but it does give the dramatic tension of like, are they going to get out of this, or how are they going to get out of this? So working the character into the story was really good. The whole Holmes-Watson dynamic, down to at the end where he's like, he works all of my cases with me. And that's that human element. He really wants company. He acts like he's a loner. He can do everything by himself, but he knows that he needs people, and he knows that, you know, he needs more companionship and someone to bounce things off of besides the housekeeper, who is just annoyed with him being there.
Pretty much.
So that whole dynamic, and even down to referencing specific Sherlock Holmes stories. I know I'm going on about this.
No, it's good.
Not apologizing.
I love your passion.
That the part where they have the fight on the clock tower, and he and Radigan both, the dynamic that Radigan is like Moriarty. More on that in a minute, but like where they both fall off the clock tower.
The Reichenbach Falls.
It's the Reichenbach Fall. Without the very long wait to see if he survives or not. You find out right away he made it. Obviously, it's a kid's movie, and they're going to resolve it right away. But just the reference of them both falling into the mist, and you can't see. There's at least some mystery. What happened? So all the references, great. I really liked that about this film, and really good entry point for me was just being a mystery story, being a Sherlock Holmes story. Great. We normally talk about stuff that we don't like as much about the movie now, but I don't know if we have any. I have one thing.
Go on.
The only thing is that Radigan as Moriarty doesn't exactly work. They tried to set it up as he's like this genius, criminal crime mastermind overlord like Moriarty is in the Sherlock books, but Radigan is really more charismatic. He's more of a charismatic leader. Doesn't seem quite as smart to me. Seems like he's more intimidating and charismatic, and he gets other people to do the dirty work for him. So not a great direct parallel there for me.
He's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He after he threw Fidget off of the airship, he like hopped on that little bicycle and was like, "We're going."
Yeah, no. I just think he's a different character type than Moriarty, whereas the other characters, like you could really one-to-one map them onto the Sherlock Holmes characters. He was a different thing. I get why they wanted to kind of make the Moriarty parallel, because that's Sherlock Holmes' big nemesis and the nemesis. I don't know how much of that was, it just didn't fit the story. Maybe it didn't fit the actor. Maybe Vincent Price, just had so much charisma. They're like, we got to give him more charisma.
Yeah. He's in equal parts creepy villain, because he does a lot of that villain thing of like just like touching everything, so much touching, and I'm a touchy person, and that is too much touching. But also like he's very clearly got everyone under his thumb.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a good villain. Like they set him up as being dangerous like right away, which I think a lot of modern movies you don't really get. Villains that are that dangerous. He feeds one of his henchmen to a cat.
That's dark.
Yeah, the first scene we meet
and
him.
Like we see the silhouette of it happening. We hear the gulp.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, this is a dark movie for kids. It's great.
It's always the dark ones that we like.
Yeah. But yeah, they set him up as being dangerous. So great villain, not Moriarty, but good villain. So that's as close as I can get to saying something negative about this movie. It's great. Can you think of anything?
I will say least favorite part, hands down. It's easy. There's a very racist depiction of Chinese people in the beginning. When we first meet Basil, he runs in, he's in disguise.
Oh, right.
So that honestly, like that, no, Disney, no, not well done. So that's going to be like my number one, not well done, Disney.
Yeah, you're right. That does happen.
Yeah.
Well, you found something negative to say.
There you go. Yeah, because I do love this film so much.
So speaking of how much we like this film, let's give it our rating system.
Okay.
So we give every film 2 ratings. One is how steampunk is this movie, and that's going to be how many steam engines does it get out of 5. So on a scale of 1 to 5 steam engines, Dana, what do you think this one is?
Oh, this is 100% 5 steam engines.
5 steam engines.
Yeah.
I think I have to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is you heard that here, folks. 5 out of 5 steam engines for The Great Mouse Detective. And then the second rating we do is just how much you enjoyed the film. Like, we're not film critics. We might put on our amateur film critic hat at different points or whatever. But just how much did you enjoy this movie? How much do you like it? Your rating is going to be 1 to 5 gears. Dana, how much do you enjoy this movie?
It's 5 gears.
5 gears?
I even watching this movie 40 years later, I still love it. I love everything about it, except for the racist depictions.
I agree. My rating system is 1 to 5 top hats. I'm giving it 5 top hats, Dana.
That's impressive.
I'm tipping my cap 5 times to this film.
Dang.
Again, I didn't think I would like it this much the first time. I remember seeing it a couple years ago. Rewatching it, in the whole way. I was never bored. I was never like, oh, well, that's kind of like, no, every part of it was entertaining. Like the bar scene, I think is really out of place and odd, but it's entertaining and it's funny.
I think it works though. I think it fits the genre. I think it fits the needs of the case. I think it works.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. Then one last thing, I really liked a lot of the little jokes. I like the humor that it's not in your face. It's no laugh track. It's not like, hey, look at this joke. Really subtle things just tossed in, like the housekeeper being like, I'm afraid it is, the dog's ear turning into stairs, the mispronouncing the name. Like I love the subtleness. That's great writing. Again, 5 out of 5 top hats. Good movie. If you haven't seen The Great Mouse Detective, then watch it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I think generally speaking, the movie stands up, except for the things that we've mentioned.
Yeah. So you heard it here. It's a great steampunk movie. It's a great movie. Check it out if you haven't. And something else you should check out is our Twitter. Go to @SteamPoweredPod. Tweet at us any suggestions you have for future movies we should watch. We're looking for any movie that is steampunk or has steampunk elements. We'll watch it, we'll grade it, we'll talk about it, and we'll give you a shout out if you recommend it to us, something that we hadn't thought of before. So do that, please. Anything else you need the people to know?
No, I think everything is good for now.
Well, this has been fun. Thanks everybody again for listening. Have a good one. We will talk to you next time with another steampunk movie.
Take care, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
I'm sleepy.
You're sleepy.
I'm a little sleepy.
Hi, sleepy. I'm Mike.
But I have to pack. And I have to finish getting ready for my trip tomorrow.
Yep.
Merp.
But you're going to do it, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's good. I don't have to leave super early, but I'm going to have to leave earlier than planned. I've just still got to look at my planner and see when that's going to be.
You and your planner.
I love my planner.